thanks everyone for joining us for this ticketing Q&A, where we can have a chance to ask questions of Sam Kelleher, who's the Director of Support Services. Formerly, the role was Head of Ticketing, I think, wasn't it, Sam? So I think there's one thing I want to say first, which is I shouldn't really be in this role. This is Ian Sterling's role, and it's quite a sad thing that he's not here, and I'm having to stand in for him. And poignantly, it's his birthday tomorrow, so I'm going to do my best to be like Ian and try and run the meeting in the way he would have done. So bear with me in that respect, because they're big shoes to step into, I think. So thanks everyone for giving up some time on a Sunday to do this. You're here to represent supporters yourselves, people that you know, or to give your own views. If we can first just quickly go around the meeting, if each of you would just like to say who you are, and if you want to say anything about whether you're a season ticket holder, whatever, then say that. So starting with me, I'm the Chief Executive of MUSC, and I'm covering for the ISLO role today. Season ticket holder, do domestic aways and Euros. That's all. So actually I should ask Sam first to just introduce yourself in case anyone doesn't know who he is.
That's fine. So Sam Kelleher, I'm Director of Support Services. To your earlier point, Duncan, that's primarily ticketing, membership, hospitality. So the reason I'm here today is probably to cover those three aspects.
All right, should we go to, well, I just should say first, Zig Baranski has had to pull out, so he sent his apologies. Dips, do you want to just say hello and introduce yourself?
Yep, sure. Hi, I'm Dips, and I'm a season ticket holder, and get to as many games as I can.
Okay, and we've got Anthony Short.
Hello, yes, I'm Anthony Short. I'm a season ticket holder in the North Stand. I'm not on the fans forum, but I've just come because it is a area of interest for me. Yeah.
Thanks. Then we've got Carly. You're on mute, Carly.
Every time I do that. I'm Carly. I am a newly appointed Fans Forum representative as the local residents rep, former season ticket holder, long time attender of domestic and Euroways, current official member.
Okay, then we've got Keith.
Keith Udale. I'm a branch secretary for the High Peak branch. Season ticket holder for a long time. Do all the Euroways, and whatever we're playing, I'm going, including the pre-season tour this season and others.
That's good. Then we've got Billy.
Hi all, I'm Bill McCaffrey, season ticket holder, and do as many domestic aways as Sam will allow me, and all European aways. My interest today is just as a guest and listening to reasons for the Galatasaray, and then if anything else comes up, that's I've got a few notes on. I'll chip in.
Okay, and we've got Nick.
Hi all, I'm Nick Howard. I'm a season ticket holder in the North Stand. I'd consider myself a regular face at European and domestic aways. No official sort of title, but obviously I have a keen interest in representing fans' views and helping out with the engagement. So was on a similar session earlier this year, so hoping it's as productive as that one. So nice to see you all.
Okay, and Jav, or Jared.
Hi, I'm Jared Winder. I'm a season ticket holder, Stratford End. Get to as many domestic and Euroways as I can, and former Fans Forum member.
Okay, that's everyone, I think. So I've covered everyone, haven't I? Yeah. So we've had 188 questions submitted through the form that MUSC circulated, and then obviously panel members will have their own questions, and or they may have a lot of questions that they've received. So clearly we're not going to cover all of them, but we're going to try and go through broadly in some topics. But I'll just start with a few intro questions that don't necessarily fit into the other topics here. And then we'll go around the panel for a first question if they want one on well, an introductory one, shall we say, and then we'll go on to domestic aways, which is the next most important topic. So I'll just start with a quick question, Sam, from on supporters club branches. We've had one from, or several questions from Thomas Nuri, Ernie Bernardi and Nigel Lee. And their question is about why branches get tickets in North Stand Tier 3 and don't get decent tickets in other parts of the ground, and that they feel they should be able to purchase tickets. The members, should be able to purchase tickets in other parts of the ground, which I thought had changed, but you'll tell us that in a minute. And then the second part to that is why has the branch allocation been cut to 1,000, but the recent communication said 19,000 tickets per game were being made available to members. So can you give a clarification on that?
Yeah. Just do you want me to answer questions as quickly as I can and give more information afterwards, or give detailed answers?
I think go for quick answers, and people can come back if they're not happy with information. That's
fine. So I'm happy to follow up in writing. So the quick answer to this one is the stadium is pretty much packed full of season tickets. There's a mix of requests from branches. Some branches like to request tickets as early as possible because they need to organise travel from different countries, etc. Others would prefer to wait to nearer the game when we can see the full availability for that specific game. So I think what's probably triggered the question is, in the lead up to the match, you see pockets of seats in the first tier being made available. That might be because 4,000 tickets or 3,000 tickets have been freed up from season ticket holders moving into the Red Army section. It might be that the away club have returned some of their allocation, but those tickets are generally released after the supporters club deadline. We did make a change in the summer. I think 100 of the 1,000 tickets are now in the first tier. And each time we do get a release of tickets, we do try and relocate if we can do. In terms of the allocation, so it is correct, and I would guess we will come on to me showing some numbers around members' tickets. So it is correct that there's the lowest number of tickets that have gone to members this season is 19,000. That does include all of the repurposed season ticket seats. So that accounts for an average 12.5 of those. It's an average of 21,000 tickets that are going to members. However, the number available initially on fixture release day is 2,000. So of the 2,000 tickets, half are given to supporters clubs, which is much more than the makeup of supporters clubs within the membership demographic. So rough check, 10% of members are part of a supporters club, but 50% of that initial allocation goes to the supporters clubs. After the initial release of tickets, supporters clubs members are then entitled to purchase or receive forwarded tickets in line with any other members.
Right, so that's a change back, isn't it? That the branch members can now, what you would have called double dip in the sense that they can get a second chance. And so basically it's because there's tickets being held back for Red Army and other things that aren't available in the first release. And then I think the other question was the 19,000 tickets being made available to members. You know, that sounds a very large number now, doesn't it? It feels like the branches are not getting a big cut of that, but you're effectively saying that their members have the chance to dip into those in a second option.
Yeah, so probably until 5 years ago, branch members were eligible to purchase in and outside of branch allocations. That was then changed and it was reverted back this summer.
Okay. Just a couple of things on cut payments. We've got James McBride, Alan Burrows. Why the club taking money out for cup games sometimes 2 months before the match? Andy Gosling, why can the club only ring a season ticket holder to tell them there's been a problem with processing the cup game payment after their ticket has been sold to somebody else? And Chris Merriman, why were the dates and prices for cup tickets not sent out well in advance? So are they quick answers, those?
So the quick answer is we take payments as late as we can do, but we are governed by deadlines for UEFA. So I think it's probably the Bayern Munich payment that has triggered that question. It was 10 weeks before the game. We'll come on, I'm sure, to discuss UEFA allocations for matches. So they have a right to up to 2,900 tickets for a game. I'll clarify that increases throughout the season, and that is the maximum number for a semi-final should we qualify. In order to print and send their tickets, because they dictate where those tickets are allocated, we need to process the cut payments, move people. There is a request in with our system developer or our ticketing system provider to enable us to move people without taking the payments early, but it's a long way down the road, Matt. Okay. What were the other questions? Sorry, then, Duncan.
Why does the club only ring a ticket holder after their ticket's been resold if they miss the payment?
So it purely comes down to volume. So the Galatasaray game came around quite quickly. Copenhagen, we have made calls to people before the ticket's released, but on average, 15% of payments don't go through. So we don't have the staff to make 7,500 outbound calls when we've got a short notice cut game. Every time we can make calls, we do make calls.
Okay. So I might just ask, Keith's got his hand up. Go, Keith.
Yeah, just a quick one. Does season ticket holders not know that if they look in the reservations, if it's not, the money's not been taken, it's there? It tells you straight away that you're short of payment. You know, I've done it half a dozen times this season. Some of our season ticket holders getting on a bit now, and including myself, but they just don't have the know-how to get online and do it. You know, but there is the option there that nobody should lose a ticket because the ticket office didn't phone them.
That ties in quite nicely. Sorry, Keith, I didn't mean to overspeak you.
I'm done.
It ties in quite nicely to the other point, which I've forgotten. But you asked Duncan in the initial question, why didn't we email out the dates that payments would be taken? So we did send an email the day of the Carabao Cup draw, saying what dates the payment would be taken and that people would be able to see the dates for Champions League games, because we knew we were guaranteed 3 on the website. The reason we did that is we get quite a lot of complaints from season ticket holders about the volume of comms that we send. So I think there was a day last week where a day in recent weeks where season ticket holders received 6 emails from us. So we're trying to balance that overload versus what's important. And Keith, you're absolutely right. One of the things we want to get out there is educational videos as to how people, I mean, not that you should need educating on how to go in and confirm a reservation. It should be very straightforward. We know it isn't. We're working on that. But it's trying to find that balance of too many communications and the right communications.
Yeah, I think it's worth saying at this point, because looking at the topics, I can't remember whether I read them out at the start of this that we were going to cover, but the domestic aways, Euro aways, premium seats, passing on tickets unofficially, official ticket transfer options, members' home tickets, seniors, touting, and website issues. And there's no chance I think we're going to get through those, but it's notable that the Galatasaray incident, or the incidents, isn't in there, and surprisingly we didn't get that many questions on it. And as I said, because I think it might be due to the fact that there's been some explanation since the fans forum, but I think people have got some questions on that. So maybe if anyone wants to raise that now, shall we do that? It might take the rest of the meeting up, but let's see. Has anybody got a question relating to Galatasaray and the home away fans being in home sections?
I think I'll start, because one of the biggest things that we've seen on social media is the fact that we felt as if the season ticket holders were being blamed for handing over their tickets to Galatasaray fans, and that is not true. So that's one of the things that a lot of season ticket holders were angry about. So how would you respond to that?
So the only communications we sent out, so there was an email from Colette Roche, the Chief Operating Officer, I think the Friday following the game, where we cited that there were 3 issues. Well, I'll do it this way. I'll share my screen if that's okay. So I don't think the club has put anything out. I think there was a story in the Daily Mail, but that didn't originate from the club. There were a larger than usual number of what you'd call standard ticket touting incidents at the game. At this point in time, we haven't even started investigating those, but there was some pretty visible groups of Galatasaray fans in the stadium, which hopefully are represented. And Bill, you were mentioning at the start of the call by some of the images on screen here. So I did show this in Fans Forum on Tuesday last week, but have expanded it a little bit to try and cover a couple of points. So the red blobs are where UEFA were allocated their tickets. We don't have any control over where those tickets are, or we have limited control over where those tickets are. For example, can you follow my cursor? Sorry, is that easy enough for everyone to do? This blob down here, stop referring to it as a blob. They need to be in the main stand, which UEFA categorizes as the south stand, and they need to be between the 2 penalty areas. So we do what we can to meet the regulations, but give the worst seats that we can do. So hence the other allocation in the north stand. And I think one of the questions that might come up is about the hospitality tent that we built in the car park. That is a temporary structure that is there for UEFA that we are utilising for our Premier League games as well. And then we have allocations in the 2nd and 3rd tiers. So I think that covers probably 3 of the 5 big pockets of Galatasaray fans that we're seeing. One of our hospitality areas was infiltrated. So I think if everyone managed to read the notes, I'll try and not repeat too much, but we did restrict sales to people outside of Turkey for the game. That whole section pretty much was, well, what transpired on the night was Galatasaray fans. And then there was another section which for some reason has disappeared, which I'll just highlight here, which is this block that's usually occupied by the away fans for domestic games. That wasn't taken by Galatasaray. They didn't have demand despite selling tickets in the UK for the area. And we had what's referred to as a bot attack on the website. So we've retrospectively analysed the data. Almost all 545 ticket purchases were from 2 local towns in the UK, not from outside of the UK. The vast majority of tickets were allocated to under 16s, but what transpired on the night was adult Galatasaray fans using those tickets. So I'm sorry, Dips, I've not answered your question at all, but I don't think at any point the club has got out. We are talking, so we've done a full stadium CCTV review. There was lots of individual Galatasaray fans dotted around the stadium, but at this point in time, we've not sent any communications to people that were advertising tickets online prior to the game, people who we've picked up in the CCTV review as what would look like them passing on their tickets to a Galatasaray fan. And it's still not confirmed whether we will do that or not. I know there was articles in, I think it was the Daily Mail, but to my knowledge, they did not come from the club.
Okay, I think Anthony had his hand up as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I read the fan forum minutes before coming on, and I think what concerned me was that the reaction was sort of about applying ticket checks for everybody in terms of ID. And what I was thinking of is that there's some real quick wins. Excuse me. There's some real quick wins with this that doesn't need to go so extreme. You know, in terms of if Galatasaray fans are able to go on the website and not buy without a booking history or like a membership, then I don't I don't think that's right. You know, is there no thought as to, you know, a bit more security in terms of ensuring that the person is known or has had a membership for a certain amount of weeks before they can start buying tickets in the home end as an unknown person? That's what I was thinking.
So yes is the short answer. So we have now committed. So to take it back a step, for some games in Europe in the past, when you have both a high risk opponent, that's a police categorization, not a club categorization, and they have high demand for the game, we have restricted sales to people that either held a membership or existed on the ticketing database prior to the draw. We've now put in a request and have a meeting with the safety authority group on Tuesday morning to get approval to do that for every cup game. So our initial thinking is that we will go to people registered on the ticketing system prior to the draw being made. Just in terms of flag, we don't expect that to be pushed back at all. We expect that to be approved, and that is in the fans forum notes. Just to flag, we have already received confirmation that there is no anticipated infiltration, for want of a better phrase, for Copenhagen, Munich or Newcastle by all authorities.
Yeah, I think that's fine, Sam. I just think the thing that worried me on the forum minutes was that it was kind of the same theme in which Dips has already raised, in terms of, oh, it's season ticket holders and, you know, that's what we need to kind of attack and ensure ID. They have ID for, and I'm really worried about that, because not just because you know, I've got anything to hide as such. I mean, what I think is that if we start reducing numbers of season tickets and members that way, then that will just obviously, you know, feed into more tickets available for what we'll come on to, I'm sure.
Yeah, so that's not our intention at all. So just going back a few months, we have a historic problem with ticket touting. Usually, take Galatasaray completely out of the equation, or it's not usually, it's 100% of the time, it's a season ticket holder or a member or a hospitality purchaser that touts the ticket. Touting hospitality is a lot more difficult because of the price of it. So you usually find that it comes from a season ticket holder or an official member. So we sat down with the fans forum in June and talked about whether to ask each season ticket holder as a starting point to verify they are who they say they are. That was agreed as a progressive step, but not something that we should introduce prior to the start of the season. So the conversation at that point in time was to link it into next season's renewals. So this isn't people coming to the ticket office with a passport and having someone stand there and check it. We can send a link out to someone who can take a picture of their passport. It takes 90 seconds to verify, and it's an automated process. But the one thing we don't want to do is inconvenience people who don't have any ill intent. But to my point of going on, restricts it to the point you've just made, Anthony, of restricting sales to people that existed on the database or hold a membership. So the 545 people that purchased tickets would all bypass that criteria. Now, they realistically aren't real people. We've got a big issue in that tickets don't get posted to an address anymore. We've probably all seen that Curly Watts recently set up an account and managed to go through and select tickets on the seating plan. He didn't purchase to confirm. But there is nothing, because we're in a digital area where you can screenshot your ticket and just send it on to anybody. There's nothing to verify the members, the season ticket holders that we do have. But none of this is about impacting or pissing off any season ticket holders or members. It's to get to the root cause of what's getting tickets out to touts, essentially.
Just hypothetically, and I won't take any more time up after this then. So, for example, if somebody had an elderly sort of relative that doesn't have a membership, but they wanted them to go to the match and they couldn't make it and they passed it on without them having a membership, I assume the club would sort of want to stop that kind of arrangement. Is that right?
Yes, is the short answer. So with nearly 400,000 members with a season ticket waiting list that, for example, if you have a 16-year-old leaves school now, starts work, can afford going to football, they've not got a season ticket, you are looking at them being 30 to 35 before they've got any chance of getting a season ticket. So that's why we've put a real focus, probably post-COVID, into getting as many tickets. So we don't want to reduce the number of season tickets. Season ticket is the core of the fan base. But if a season ticket holder can't come, we now offer 3 options. It's not all about buying memberships for people, for elderly family members or younger family members. It's about getting as many tickets as we can do to official members, because it's so hard to get tickets for games. And that has lasted, and demand has increased, I would say, in the last 10 years, whilst performance on the pitch hasn't been what it was for the decade prior to that. So it's only an issue that's going to get worse.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, I'll just follow up there, because that was one of the topics you're going to come to. Was there's been quite a lot of questions about allowing season ticket holders to have the ability to pass on tickets to friends and family. I think we've discussed this recently, and we know it wasn't always the case, but there was a period where you were allowed to do this. And basically, I think what they're saying here is, just looking at this, there's quite a few questions saying it would make you a very popular man, is what they're saying, Sam, if you allowed people this benefit of being able to nominate a friend or family to be able to receive the ticket, who would obviously then not have to be a member and pay and join, but it would mean that the season ticket holder is still liable for the ticket use if they pass it on in that way. And I don't know, I suppose it's something that's going to be discussed going forward at the ticket subgroup, is it?
Yeah, so so that meeting is tomorrow to talk about, which I think probably 3 people off the call will be at. That meeting is tomorrow. If you could just, because you probably also come on to numbers of tickets and how they're allocated. So forgive how boring this spreadsheet is, but what I wanted to just show was the 5 Premier League home games we've had so far this season. So this is the end result of each game. So for example, we have 58,000 season ticket and executive club members, and an average of 84 of those being used for each game. What that has done is take this number of official members tickets from between 2,000 and 8,000 pre-COVID to 21,500 so far this season. So yes, we want to offer flexibility to season ticket holders, but it's really key that we keep that number of members tickets as high as we possibly can do. So I've then gone on, because it's going to come up, to cover off match day hospitality. So we advertise that we sell 3,000 packages. That's the number of hospitality packages that have gone to non-members for each game this season. So an average of 1,089. And then for full transparency, we've put the full numbers of hospitality packages down at the bottom. So that includes executive club members that buy additional matchday hospitality, season ticket holders that do it, members that do it. That's warts and all. So we're proposing to publish that on the website following each game, because I think there's a lot of rumours that we're doing tens of thousands of hospitality packages that simply aren't true.
But Sam, it doesn't help when the location of these hospitality tickets changes every game. So obviously we're going to sit and think that there's more hospitality seats available when they change match by match. Why is that? Why do they change match by match?
So it was worse last season. We did, without force relocating season ticket holders, we did as much as we could to get them into centralised or to consistent areas this summer. So I've made this a bit bigger, but essentially you should not see sorry, it needs to be, can you see that okay?
Yeah.
In short, the yellow areas are what will be sold as hospitality this season. That's whether that's seasonal to executive club or match by match. It was a lot worse last season, and the rationale for that, and I don't want to go into talking about who holds tickets, but we are required to hold a lot of tickets until X weeks before the game. That varies from 16 weeks before the game to 1 week before the game. In order to get members' tickets released in the summer, we basically took away a lot of the hospitality allocation and then drip fed that back as we got releases back from other allocations. We tried to reduce that this year. It still isn't perfect because people will look at, I'll zoom in, this block here and say that isn't a hospitality block, but we're just topping up from other allocations that we're holding elsewhere. But the plan for next season will be to remove that one, and then you just have what is known as traditional hospitality seats being sold as hospitality packages. But you shouldn't see, and I think Bayern Munich was, Barcelona was the big one last season, and it's because we would, so much of the stadium was opted out by season ticket holders that we had to top it up from wherever we could. And you then have, for European matches, the added complication of UEFA being dotted around left, right and centre.
Can I just ask, because I'm just following up on some of the questions. I mean, I think Lee Baker had asked about the percentage of hospitality seats being published, which I think you've said you are going to do that. So that's covered, although he's asked for a pictorial form as well, which I think could be useful if there's a way of doing that, especially discussing this idea about, there's a lot of skepticism about the premium seats because they move around, and, you know, getting people to trust the figures, I suppose, is a challenge. So, I mean, you know, it's up to you how you do that, but I think that is a challenge.
So just to,
sorry, just one last bit part to that, which is, you know, I think there's an argument that people are making about why are the club selling these tickets at all, and it may not be your decision in terms of revenue generation or whatever, but you know, it's a legitimate question. I think, you know, given the number of members that are after tickets, these are being sold at high prices, aren't they?
Yeah. So far this season, 2.48% of the stadium has been allocated as hospitality. Premium seating is only allocated in, I am sharing, aren't I? Sorry, yes. Yeah. Is only allocated in a unused hospitality seat. So it doesn't pop up. So, and that's coming out at 1% so far this season. So 3% across the two things. They're all in the areas that are gold on there. And someone that can make stuff far prettier than me will publish that online post-match, every match. So we will see it go up at the next Premier League game because you sell more hospitality for the bigger games and it's against City. But it will not exceed any of those thresholds that we put in the fans forum minutes. There's two reasons we do it. It has been my decision, so I'm happy to own it. One is that's what keeps ticket prices below the Premier League average for the vast majority of fans, the fact that we sell hospitality at these prices. And two, and what I think is probably causing some, if not most, of the frustration online is, why is it in the traditional ticket flow? The reason it's in there, and I went into it in the fans forum, is because the only legitimate reason someone has to go and buy a ticket off a tout is that we were sold out all of the time. By putting the hospitality into that flow, whilst they talk about the increase in ticket touting, we are seeing that it is decreasing. That somehow, Kylie, you've got both hands up. So I'll let you. I'll let you ask now. You're up twice.
I don't know why I've got two hands up, but I've definitely at least got one.
Yeah, go on, Carly.
This idea that hospitality, by paying hospitality, by having loads of hospitality seats at a higher revenue, at a higher price, that somehow sort of keeps general ticket prices low. How does that work? Because this isn't the NHS. You know, we're not fighting for a particular pot of money. This is a for-profit business. Surely what sets the amount of, sets the ticket price is how much profit the owners are looking to extract from the club. How does hospitality, I don't understand how putting hospitality at a higher price keeps regular tickets lower. They could make, the owners could make a decision that, okay, we're going to keep tickets at that price, and that just means we're not going to make further profit this year, or shareholders are not going to take a further dividend. How does it, I don't understand how that's being promoted as if it's like there's some sum total that we're allowed to take from ticket revenue.
So I won't get into dividends because that isn't my area of expertise, and we can answer that question separately, or someone else can answer it. So I think we're seeing more and more that increased revenue increases the club's flexibility in the transfer market. So not every penny counts. I don't want to sound like a commercial for a supermarket, but I think we went into quite a lot of detail when we went out with the season ticket renewals this year in terms of operating costs, how much they've risen in the 11 years that we at that point had frozen season ticket prices for. And throughout those 11 years, it's the hospitality that we've continuously increased in order to maximize that revenue. So it is about maximizing revenue, but from my perspective, it's so we can reinvest in the stadium. And despite that probably making you want to ask another 15 questions, there is millions of pounds spent on upgrading the stadium each season. I can't remember, but I think it was referenced about the South Stand roof and next summer, and that being looked at in the forum on Tuesday. So we do need to continue to be profitable. The reasons for that, somebody else can answer, but it does have a direct impact on who we can sign.
But then
which I think was
sorry, I was going to say, like, so just hitting on that whole, like, the hospitality tickets and things like that. How are you justifying over £1,800 in hospitality for the City game? Like, do you get 10 minutes on the pitch for that as well? I mean, what happens with that? It's incredibly high, and it's probably, I know the premium games and I know they're top, but what are you getting for that?
I won't go into the package details, but it is a hospitality package. It's the City game, I'm guessing you're seeing it for.
Yeah.
You now won't see it. So it has been removed. It was removed during the week. In short, to maximize revenue from hospitality, we dynamically price it. So as you get to a point where there are X number of seats left within a facility, the price does increase. And I think at the point of that being flagged, there was 2 tickets available in the block that was being referenced. I would need to provide, I'd need to go away to get a more detailed response to it. But we do increase hospitality prices in order to keep GA ticket pricing as low as we can do. And I appreciate that went up 5% last year.
Just going to come to Anthony because he's got his hand up in a second. I just want to quickly follow up on there's a lot of skepticism about the premium tickets, and can you confirm whether or not when somebody resells a ticket or donates it, can it be sold as a premium ticket?
No, never.
Okay,
it's never happened.
Asking that.
So that's both resold and donated tickets have never been sold at inflated prices.
So if a season ticket holder sells their ticket back to the club, that will never, that you can say categorically, that will never be sold as a premium ticket.
Yeah. Or hospitality.
Or yeah.
And just on that,
on each of the 3 occasions, I think there was 3 people reported that had happened for Galatasaray. Yeah. We couldn't get hold of 1. 2 people deleted the post and apologised.
Okay. Did you say before that the seats that can be sold like this as premium hospitality are all marked on here in sort of goldy yellow colour? So yes. There can't be any outside of those blocks, because I must admit that surprised me. But
no,
is that right?
I'll double check the diagram, because I did it this morning, but yes is the answer to the question.
Sorry, Anthony, because you've been waiting.
No, it's fine. Mine was just with regards to the last slide, Sam, that you had, with regards to the makeup of the stadium, and I do appreciate that there's a commitment to post that, which is really good. I'm just looking though, and the part of the statement which I was really disappointed with was the 800% figure, because I thought that was really misleading. Because as I understand it, that was post-COVID, and what sort of doing there is you're comparing something that was previously unmeasurable, aren't you? Because season ticket holders who are passing on to members via the official channel on the website, you're counting them in those numbers, aren't you?
Yes.
So you would have no way of knowing how many people were doing that in like 2017, 18. So that'd be completely unmeasurable, wouldn't it?
That would be, and I'm happy to go back and amend them. So, for example, we can see, you probably won't have seen it because it's in tiny writing, but of the 21,555 tickets on average allocated to members this season, 12,516 are coming from that. So it's still a 2 to 9,000 increase. So it's still hundreds of percent.
So that's
it's
for all the
9,000
games, though. That 12,516 for all of those games
No,
collectively.
that's average as well. So on average for each game, 12,516 season ticket holders are either forwarding, which is around 8,000 of those, donating, which is around 800, and I think resell's about 3,500.
And
So
just
the
to
difference
follow,
there, is that from tickets, is that from increased seat occupancy, or what, the 9,000, or?
Sorry, Duncan, ask me that a different way.
The difference between the 12,500, which is repurposed tickets, and the 21,000, what's that?
What's that made up of?
Yeah.
So it's a reduction in different allocations. So for example, it was referenced the reduced MUSC allocation. We have reduced the number of season tickets through natural churn, not through forcing anybody out of having a season ticket. And then we've completely overhauled all of the internal allocations.
Yes.
Which are now minimum.
Can I just add a bolt on to the end of that, just very quickly, Duncan, if that's all right? I think one worry about this is that what's becoming more and more evident this season is people talking to me about not being successful in a ballot at all when they've purchased a membership, and through this they're kind of having to rely on their connections with season ticket holders to get them to pass on season tickets officially rather than being successful in the club's ballot. So I do think that there's a real concern there that everybody who I speak to, and this isn't just a handful, because I stand around the game, the match from the ground from 3 hours before kickoff, they're all saying that if they're a member and they go in the ballot, it's very rare that they're ever successful. So, we don't want to make it a closed shop or who in terms of who it's a season ticket holder. So I think we just have to start differentiating those numbers between who is a member and got one through the club and who is a member and got it passed on via a season ticket holder.
Yeah.
So we can split that data out. That's fine. But I think you've hit the nail on the head why we need to do what we need to do to maximise the number of tickets that we're making available for members. I completely agree.
Sorry, Sam, you finished.
I mean, sorry, the only other thing was there's been one, taking cup games out of the equation, there's been one ballot so far this season.
Yeah. Jab,
which
Jab,
was
go on.
Nick might have just covered it, but what I was going to ask is, of that 12,000 and odd that had been moved through repurposing, were we measuring that against the time when repurposing was available or not?
It has just been answered. So I think what, in short, Anthony is asking that to show is direct purchase through the club, which will be 9,000, and number via repurp. The thing is, 2 of the 3 schemes you do purchase directly through the club, but we'll lump all of those into a second number, which is beneficiary of a repurposed ticket. So that would be 9,000 and 12,500 would be the 2 numbers. But the 9,000 versus the 2,000 pre-COVID is still a significant uplift.
Can we just go on to domestic aways, which is the most popular topic, certainly, that we got sent in. And I mean, I can summarise it. There's a lot of questions on this, but a lot of them are the same theme here. And that was for domestic away applications, can you account for the number of unsuccessful applications so that somebody has a better chance if they've not got a ticket in that season, or even there's a suggestion of reserving 5% like you do for the Euro aways for people who haven't got a ticket in that season, that would then have a higher chance. And a lot of people asking for more transparency on the ballot process and publishing which categories get how many tickets. And then the last one, would you consider adopting a rolling credit system like Euro aways to reward loyalty instead of a closed shop loyalty pot, or add an additional form of loyalty in the standard pot? There's a lot of questions on that similar theme.
Yeah, so the answer to all those questions is that we would need to discuss it in the fans forum. I've never made a policy on a European or a domestic away game. I've been here 24 years, and they're always things that are determined by fans, not by us. The only thing I can answer is the transparency, and I think we do it.
It used to be up on the website, I think, before, but I haven't seen it recently.
No, I haven't.
It is still up on the website, definitely. So
yeah, and then
is my screen still sharing?
Okay, cool.
Of course, it's under maintenance. On the ticketing site, there is a help and information section, which has all of that information.
See, we wouldn't know that because I don't think that's ever been communicated to anyone that they could go to that section. But obviously that leads on to the fact that the website's not fit for purpose either. But that's another issue, I think, in ticketing.
He's not head of IT, but
I know he's not. That's why I said it's another issue.
In fairness, even the head of IT couldn't answer that question. So ticketing, we are with the best provider that there is. They've gone from one client to, I think, 15 of the Premier League with the same client, but ticketing systems are inflexible. We are doing everything we can to make it as good as we can, but it's a lot of it is out of our control.
But maybe the club could help with the times that they release tickets. Like I think the other day there was a mass queue to get into the tickets because there's Galatasaray that was available, and there was also a home game or something along those lines. But maybe they could look at the times that these things are released, just to make it easier.
In terms of so any are you saying as a season ticket holder you might be inconvenienced because of a members on sale, or are you referring?
Yeah, the same time. That's a common thing.
Time,
yeah. Put the Euro aways on at the same time as a members
home game,
or members studies.
Yeah, we just shouldn't be doing that. I'll speak to the team about that.
We've got Nick, who's been waiting.
Yeah, cheers, Duncan. Yeah, I suppose it's just on the theme of transparency, Sam, around obviously the returns that come back for away games. Is there any sort of plans to sort of distribute info on where they come back to and where they head, obviously, if they go back into the standard pot or execs or loyalty pot, just for that transparency, really?
So you've not asked this, but I think it might come up anyway. So I won't answer your question, then I'll try and answer your question. So the methodology that we use to allocate return tickets is still the same as was requested by the fans forum. So those unluckiest first get contacted. And then when we reach a point in time where that cycle isn't getting rid of the tickets, we then make them fastest finger first, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah.
The transparency around where they go, I don't see an issue with. We can do that. That's fine.
Can I just interrupt on that point, Sam? Because there's been a couple of questions on the callbacks, or I think are they texts now rather than callbacks? But or is it both? But
I think they're trying both because we want as many people to get the tickets.
Right. Well, I mean, one person's just made this point. I think it was Lee Baker and Katie Ryan, both asking about the callbacks. Are they happening? But also, if you've got the sort of top 50 that are going to get a callback, is it possible to even publish those? I mean, I don't know, there might be a data protection issue, but people are saying because if they knew they might get a call back, they can be ready for it, but otherwise they miss it and miss their chance, sort of thing.
Again, I don't see why we couldn't do that. We can take that away and look at it.
Yeah. Okay.
We certainly couldn't publish it, but we could contact the people directly and say, you will be number 30 on the list.
Right, yeah, that might help. Is there, I mean, we only got 10 minutes left at the moment. I just want to ask, because even though we're dealing with obvious ticketing issues and we haven't gone to Euro ways, is there anything that anybody thinks that there ought to be raised that would be considered an uncomfortable question for Sam, that if this was a stage managed meeting, as some people think it is? I don't think we've done it very well if you stage managed it, but is there any kind of burning question that you would say, why wasn't that asked in the meeting, or I didn't get a chance to basically ask him a hard one?
I just would like to ask Duncan, it's with regard to people who have the season ticket suspended for an allegation they may not have used it, somebody else may have used it, or whatever. Well, no, we're talking about, I've known, well, I've heard, but I don't have the evidence in front of me. But these tickets then go for resale. And as we were speaking earlier on, are these tickets then available for corporate resale? Before there's an opportunity for anyone to appeal that decision.
So Bill, I can give you a written answer to that, but to cover it briefly, if someone passes it on and we don't have evidence that above face value has been charged, they won't be suspended anymore. That was changed in the summer to a warning. Everyone goes through an appeals process. That's firstly heard by a dedicated central team, and then secondly by a panel which has FSA and fan representation on it. And only when we have gone through that process and the customer has chosen whether to go to the IFO or not, do we release the seats. When we release the seats, we'll never sell them as hospitality.
Okay, thanks, Sam. I mean, just because we're running
Can I just
bit
clear
low on
this
time.
up?
And, sorry, go on, Bill.
I'll just clear this up. I've a number of years ago, I was suspended for 4 games. I found out on a Friday night following a European away that it related to an incident with the steward outside Old Trafford some 2 or 3 weeks previous. I wrote to Colette and Ed Woodward at the time. It was a Friday night. I was fortunate to get an answer on a Saturday morning, and they suspended the suspension of that seat. Now, but though that was I got in for that game, the following 3 games was still suspended, and I was under I'm getting mixed up here. Actually, I won that appeal on another occasion when my ticket was sold. Someone bought the ticket off the club in my seat because my pal told me, and they paid a corporate price for that ticket. So it has happened in the past, and I just want to be sure that that's not happening now.
I can provide you with evidence to prove that that wasn't the case. And we'll happily do so because it's your own information.
Yeah, that was happened to me, mate. But that was about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I can absolutely categorically confirm, Bill, your seat was not resold as a corporate ticket. 100%.
Well,
can we pick up on that afterwards, Bill? Because we can follow up on that if you want. But it's just because we've not got that much time left and we haven't done Euro ways at all. And I just want to quickly summarise quite a few of the points people have made. Some of them are easier to answer than others. But one person's asked, or several people are asking, why not give the 5% to 0 credits when the allocation is only above a certain level, which I thought was the case anyway. Why are Euro ways open to normal members? And if they are, why don't you give season ticket holders priorities if they're on the same credit? And there's quite a few complaints about season ticket holders on 1 or 2 credits who didn't get a chance because they could neither get in on the 3 credits, and then they were excluded from the well, it wasn't the ballot, was it, but the purchase at 0, and are asking, could you at least make the 5% an open purchase? Which again, I think you're going to say the fans forum have to decide that, but or the ticketing subgroup. And there's another question about, can members not be allowed to get an opportunity to apply for European finals when they've got the credits from that season? I've got one more, which is about the Copenhagen allocation being low as well, lower than cities, which I think you might have answered, but that's a quick one first.
So I've not got a pen, so I'll try and remember the 5 questions.
Okay, I'll go through them again. But Copenhagen,
no, it's fine. 3 of them, you're right. It needs to be the fans forum. Why do we allow what was referred to as just normal members to access European away games? Because not everyone lives in England, and people can go to European games. There's a lot of members that just want to attend European away games. It's almost impossible to get a season ticket. We've covered that. There's loads of reasons. We can go through them in detail in the forum. Why don't we allow members to apply for finals if we do for European away games all the way up to a final? Every time we qualify for a final, we add up any members that have been to as many combined home and away European games or cup games in that season, and it never totals more than a season ticket holder. So whilst we would never not that we would never advertise that we were going to do it, but if we ever got that point where a member had been to every home game and X number of European away games, if it was a European final, then we would find an allocation to sort that member out. But we prioritise season ticket holders. But everything else is fans forum and fan led. And we are.
Sorry, didn't do the Copenhagen allocation, did you?
They gave us the entitlement. Short of saying that they didn't have as much demand for City as they do for a home game against us, I can't add anything to that. They gave us what we're entitled to.
So it's their fault, if you like, the Copenhagen.
It's not their fault because.
No, I mean they've refused to give.
They've done what we do. I'd never give
10%
if I could sell it to home fans to an away team. It's just we're popular.
Is there any other questions from any of the panel on Euro aways or?
We will do European away games is the one area we've got by far the most flexibility to do what fans want. And I think that's evident in how much it's changed in 5 years. We will be completely fan led with regards to European away games.
Okay, one thing that you might be able to clarify quickly, there's quite a few questions that people are confused about if they return a ticket, whether they resell it or donate it, cancel, as in you call it, don't you? But resell to the club or donate. What situation does it impact on your ability to do an away, to apply for away games in the league?
So this is complicated, and my answer probably won't make all that much sense. But for a league game, it doesn't. If you donate or resell for a league game, it has no impact because we want as many people as possible to be in the stadium. The reason we've changed that slightly for cup games is because we essentially, assuming we have at least one home cup game in a season, we're automatically going to exclude anybody who opted out of a competition from being able to apply for domestic away games. If we then allowed people to resell, to opt in and resell every game, it would just be unfairly penalising all those people that opted out. So again, we can discuss all of that in the fans forum. We're open to all of that being discussed.
I think it was more people wanted clarity because they're nervous about when they get which games they. I think people know you can resell a Premier League ticket, but if it's a cup game, you're going to lose. I mean, is there a warning when you go to resell a cup game that tells you? I think there is, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. The short answer, and we can re-communicate it because there's been lots of changes. The short answer is you will only lose eligibility if you list your ticket for resale for a cup game. You'll never lose it for donating, and you won't lose it for anything for a Premier League game. There has been a recommendation made that I quite like, which is because of the lower demand for the Carabao Cup and potentially Europa League, should we be in it in future seasons or later this season, that we allow people to forward to non-members, and I think that's going to be discussed in the next fans forum or maybe the subgroup tomorrow.
Yeah, there's just one other question on transferring. Margaret Walker's asking why when a season ticket holder transfers to a member, they get charged, I think it's for cup games, they get charged £10.
So again, we're back to the ticketing system here. So the system is designed, not by us, by the people that build the system, to automatically charge a price difference. So if season ticket holder receives £10 discount, when you then repurpose that ticket to a member, it automatically tries to charge £10. We have managed to put rules in place for every scenario to override the way the system is built, with the exception of cup games where people are moved from their normal seat. And it's those people that are incurring it. Anybody who rings, we're manually overriding that and giving the price reduction. But again, it's back to a system that is built for for multiple leagues of clubs, not just for Manchester United.
Yeah, can I just quickly ask some questions for members, because there were quite a lot and they often feel that they're not represented on these, and I think we probably do need to do a members call at some point to deal with them. But the main issues are obviously about not being able to get tickets for home games in the ballot, or I think a lot of people find it very difficult that the tickets are all released, or a lot of the tickets are released at the start of the season, and then they miss that and they miss their opportunity. And so there's a lot of people asking, could we go back to a ballot system and release tickets 8 weeks prior to each game rather than all at the start of the season?
Just to give a breakdown on that, to the supporters club point right at the start of the call, roughly 1,000 tickets are released at the start of the season. We then announced another release, which this year, I don't have the date off the top of my head, was 3,000 tickets for the first half of the season, because we got the Red Army to give their lists much earlier than they have in previous years. There's then an 8-week release, and we've then on average communicated 4 more releases to members for each game. So but we're up for tweaking it back to ballots. There was a lot more complaints when it was ballots than there are today, but it comes back to making as many tickets as we possibly can do available for members. But I'm more than happy to do a members session of one of these, definitely.
Yeah, I'm just trying to quickly cover a couple of topics, because even though we're not doing it any depth, but there's a few senior questions, and they're mainly about, you know, the concessions having to attend a certain number of Premier League games. What's the rules on that now, and is it different from a concession to anyone else, or is it the same for everyone?
We announced that it would be different last year. We then didn't enforce it, and we took it out the terms, and sincerely hope we took it out the terms and conditions this year.
So it's no different.
It's identical for every age group.
And how many do you have to attend Premier League to be
14.
offered the chance to renew? How many, sorry?
14.
14, is
So
it?
it's 75%. 14 is technically 73%, but we've gone with 14 as opposed to 15.
Yeah, and the other big gripe is, you may not be surprised to hear about the change in the discount for seniors, and that people now only get 25% and some of their friends get 50% who are a bit older. Does the club have any appetite to review that?
We can review it. We landed on that being the fairest thing to do. We felt the discount was very high, 50% off tickets, and when you look at that across the league, it was very high. All we were trying to do with maintaining the 50% discount for those that already receive it was not take away an existing benefit from that person. We review every price every year around this time, so in the next 6 weeks, So it will be reviewed again. I wouldn't expect it to change.
Okay. Does anyone else have any burning questions? I think we're kind of at time up anyway, but
Yeah, last one, if you don't mind. Euro
Yep.
away, Sam. Category A tickets. I know they go to management, the youth team, sponsors, etc. What happens with the remainder of those?
So in terms of contractually, you get, I don't know if everyone knows, you get 200 category 1 tickets for each European game. Awkwardly, after Galatasaray, they're in the home end. So that's what Keith's referring to, if everybody didn't know. Contractually, we should give out all 200 to the groups you've mentioned. So sports breaks have a contractual entitlement, but the frequency of their trips is minimal, shall we say, at the moment.
Yeah.
Players' families use the tickets. Youth team are playing more and more frequently the day before the game. We are actually lobbying UEFA to therefore increase the number to roughly 240, but generally they're pretty much full. There are a handful of people that have come to us and said they'll always take them if they are available. So if people want to add themselves to that list, it's not something that's particularly in high demand because people want to be in the main away end. But
always ask for them.
Send me an email, Keith.
Yeah, I've had one. That was all, and that was donkeys years ago.
I've got a couple of easy ones for you here, Sam. One person says, are you personally told how to dictate ticket policy by the Glazers, or do you decide it? And then another, which is probably relevant to whether we should be having this meeting at all or not. Gaurav Srivastava says, why are you not protesting every single second? We are not boycotting everything related to the club and the Glazers. We have to get them out. All the malaise on the field is because of them, and we all know that. Still, we pretend everything is okay and continue to engage in dialogue with their employee, which is you, I take it. Really? So I don't know whether you've got an answer for that one, but that's been sent in. I'm just, for transparency, putting the anti-Glazer question to you.
I'll answer the first question, which is, I would hope, so we discuss all policies with fans. Fans don't like all policies. There's more and more that we are making fan-led in terms of away games primarily. No policies are dictated to us by the owners. Yes, they do approve them, but we make proposals each year. Some of those are approved, some of those aren't approved, and that's about all I've got to say on it, to be honest.
And just another point, and I'm just repeating what I've read. How would you respond to claims on social media that the biggest ticket touts are actually the ticket office?
I think I've tried to do that as much as I can. I'm sorry, I've got the fans forum notes here. In the fans forum, there are legitimate reasons we are doing, which we've touched on in here today. But I think what was presented in the fans forum the other day would be our formal response to that.
Right, and obviously I think transparency is key. So I think we've touched upon that as well, and that would be welcomed by the supporters to see the numbers that we've talked about and all the transparency as well.
And then as people, if people would like, I mean, we're not going to get into exactly how many tickets the players' families get and arguments about whether dads should be able to go and watch their children play at Old Trafford or mums watch their daughters when it's a women's match. But if there's things people would like to be put into that, we're more than happy to review it.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Jab's got his hand up.
Hi, Jab.
A couple of very quick ones because I know we're out of time. First one's probably a bit of an awkward question, Sam, but I'm going to ask it anyway. We've covered a lot of things tonight around callbacks for tickets that have already been moved. We've covered people passing tickets on to family and friends, which was okay at one point, but not anymore. It's the general feeling and feedback I get from a lot of fans is that there's a mistrust in the ticket office, that are prioritising new
Lord,
or legacy
censorship.
season ticket holders and the current season ticket holders being victimised. And I know that's a bit of a generalisation, but my sort of challenge is, what can the club of ticket office do to try and regain that trust of the longer established season? Some of those opinions.
So Jab, I think it was for everyone, and you cut out probably for about 60% of that. But
Yeah,
I think the gist of it was, you've lost the trust of season ticket holders. How are you going to get it back?
Yeah.
And you're out to penalise season ticket holders.
Yeah, that's the general gist. And when we look at some of the things like with season tickets going or return tickets going to members, etc., there's a perception out there that the current longer standing season ticket holders are being victimised, and how can you address that?
So I'm hoping transparency will help with a lot of it. I think what's changed in recent years is there was never an enormous season ticket waiting list. So if somebody really wanted to get hold of a season ticket, they would have got hold of a season ticket. There's probably people on the call who've had season tickets, given season tickets up, got season tickets back, and so on. The issue we've got now is, if you look at the younger supporter, how do they get to a high number of matches? And everything we've discussed, I think, am I right, Carly, you're the only person that is a member on the call. I think everyone else was a season ticket holder. I think you probably use someone's season ticket, so don't go through the rigmarole of trying to get tickets, but it is extremely difficult. We've covered bot attacks, we've covered X, Y, Z. I think all we can do is reiterate, we're not targeting season ticket holders. We're just trying to maximise the tickets that are available to official members. I'll do as many of these as we need to do. I always try and be as open and transparent as we can be. I think we involve, I'm not saying fans sign off on, but we involve fans and fan groups and the two bodies that we have in terms of the forum and the advisory board in all of the decisions that we're making. I think that's about it. There is no campaign against season ticket holders. That we
I
know
think
there
that's,
are those loyal fans.
Yeah. I think just from our perspective, Sam, as well, and you know, if you know, I'm stood outside the ground and branches are telling me they've had their tickets halved, you know, you've got members saying that they're not successful in ballots. You can start to understand and I'm sure and appreciate the importance of that transparency, because it's extremely worrying. And I mean, the reason I'm here today really is I feel really sort of passionate about like our support not being gentrified, you know, and ensuring that season tickets reduce in number over a period of time, and then all of a sudden you've got things like packages and dynamic pricing, which I know is popular where our lovely owners reside. So you know, I think that's kind of out my overwhelming worry, and I appreciate you coming and being transparent. But that is something that I know supporters worry about a lot, because it also affects things like atmosphere and stuff like that.
Yeah, so just in terms of hospitality and dynamic pricing, that is, I'd say we are at a much lower percentage than any other club in the entire league. So it's a sport thing. I'm not saying anybody has to like it. I've tried to explain the reasons for it. But it is much lower than people think as well. So we're talking, the big issue at the minute is less than, or is 1% so far this season of the capacity of the stadium.
Echoing what Jav said, I think the big mismatch that we see between sort of what fans want and what the ticket office provides is there are two main things that fans want from the ticket office. They want to be rewarded for loyalty. That is the key to all of these sorts of things. There's amongst fans that people who go the most deserve to have that loyalty repaid, and fairness. And I think people sometimes see the ticket offices, your priorities are completely different. If fans are valuing loyalty and fairness and believe that they should be the underlying decisions, the underlying principles that are affecting the decision-making processes that your team go through, Sam, it appears that a lot of the time your decisions are based on revenue generation, as we were discussing previously, convenience, you know, trying to have, we were talking about things like the fastest finger first ticket drops, which people are not keen on, members are particularly not keen on, because it feels like it's not fair. It should be a ballot system. It prioritises people who are able to sit at a computer all the time, but it's easier for the ticket office to just release them in that way than do another ballot. It feels like there is sometimes a mismatch between the fans' priorities and the ticket office priorities and the reasons that decisions are made. And I think if there's more transparency and if there's more understanding about decisions being made in the interests of loyalty and fairness, rather than revenue generation and convenience, all of those other things, that would have such a big impact. I think all of these sorts of, the issues that we discuss about how tickets are allocated, memberships, hospitality seats, they're just sort of the results of that underlying thought processes that the ticket office and not just the ticket office, but various other departments and people in the club undertake. So I think it's about fans it's not just about transparency of the processes, it's about transparency of the principles of the decision making that underpin them.
Just really briefly on that point. Fastest finger first versus ballot, for example, was mentioned 2 or 3 times and is applied to European games and home games. It's so much easier for us to do a ballot. They are fan-led. So I think maybe what we need to do there is, instead of having these policies debated and agreed with a closed group of people, we've started to push things out to survey. We would happily do a ballot for every game. It's so much less complicated than on sales.
That's just an example.
I completely get it's an example. It was just a way to pick up on that one point. But
and people should lobby for it. I mean, I think the thing is, if people think that things are not working, I mean, obviously the problem is that if they work for one group of fans, they don't say anything, and when they don't work for the other group, they all complain, and you can flip-flop between different systems, can't you? But I guess we've probably hit the end of time here. I mean, I just say that apologies for all the people who sent 188 questions, and probably for some of the panel members, they've got them that haven't covered them. I mean, if we were doing it on specific topics, I think we could go through and read out each individual question, and people would feel a bit more that they'd had their chance, rather than me trying to summarise them quite ineffectively, I'd probably be told afterwards. But thanks for everyone giving up their time on a Sunday, Sam, obviously, as well, and hopefully we'll pick up on this in future and do some more similar meetings. So thanks everyone for that.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks all.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Cheers.
I'll wait till you cut off. Oh, he's gone. Right, we may as well go then.
All right then, bye.